So today we're going to look at adding and subtracting our rational expressions. Again, just like regular fractions, we have to have the same denominator in order to add or subtract. So here's a really basic example. 1 over 2x plus 5 over 2x, they have common denominators, so you add straight across the top and the denominator stays the same. So we have 6 over 2x, and then obviously you would simplify. 6 over 2 gives you a 3. Okay, here's another one. All three pieces have the same denominator, so we can just add / subtract across the top. I put this second piece in parentheses because we're subtracting, so we need to make sure that we distribute that minus all the way through. So you'd have a 2x minus 2, and then plus -1 just as a -1. So on top we get x minus 3. I did go ahead and factor our denominator. It factors to be x minus 3, x minus 1. A lot of times you are able to cancel off, so I just recommend trying to simplify further past this step. So you can cross off your x minus 3's and you're left with a 1 over x minus 1. Here we do not have common denominators, so we have 1 over x plus 2 over x squared. They have similar denominators, but they're not exactly the same, so we need to find what we call the least common denominator. And our least common denominator in this case is x squared, because both x and x squared go into x squared. So now I need to make both denominators x squared. Well, I obviously don't need to do anything with this, but in order to make an x into an x squared, I'd have to multiply by x. So I multiply by x over x, because x over x is 1. Anything over itself is 1. So I'm not changing the problem, I'm just rewriting it in a different way. It's similar to 3/6 is the same as 1/2. So we're just writing it in a different way. So I go ahead and multiply. 1 times x gives me x times x is x squared. Now these have the same denominator, so I can add across the top to get x plus 2 over x squared. 1 over 3x cubed plus 1 over 6x squared. Again, not common denominators, so our first step has to be to find that least common denominator. I always look at my coefficients first, so find the least common multiple of 3 and 6, which is 6. And then you have to find the least common multiple of x cubed and x squared. Well, you can make an x squared into an x cubed, so our least common denominator is 6x to the third. This time we're going to have to multiply both fractions by something, however, we're multiplying by different pieces. So 3x to the third is similar to 6x to the third because they have the x cubed. However, we need to multiply the first fraction by 2 over 2. And our second fraction must be multiplied by x over x so that our x squared can become an x cubed. So when we multiply, you get a 2 over 6x cubed plus x over 6x cubed. So you have a 2 plus x over 6x cubed. Here's another one. 5x over x minus 2 plus 3 over x plus 6. This time our denominators have nothing in common. Therefore, both pieces are going to be our least common denominator. So we're going to have to multiply the left fraction by x plus 6 over x plus 6, and the second fraction by x minus 2 over x minus 2. So I wrote that out. Keep your denominator in factored form. We don't want to FOIL it. And then you can distribute your 5x to your x plus 6 and your 3 to your x minus 2 to get this in the numerator. And then I combined like terms. So you have a 5x squared plus 33x minus 6 over x minus 2x plus 6. And I believe one more example, maybe 2. Yep, just 1. Here we're going to subtract. However, now our denominators are not factored. So before you find your least common denominator, you always want to factor. So first fraction factors to be x plus 1, x minus 1. Second is x plus 2, x minus 1, or excuse me, x plus 1. So our least common denominator is going to be everything. We have to incorporate all pieces. However, if they share a piece, we do not duplicate it. So our least common denominator, actually, I want you guys to figure that out. So what do you think the least common denominator will be? Okay, so hopefully you came up with x plus 1, x minus 1, and x plus 2. We need everything that there is, but we don't duplicate. So x plus 1, x minus 1, x plus 2, and then we get back to x plus 1, which we already stated. So we just need to have those 3 pieces. So now I need to multiply my first fraction by x plus 2 over x plus 2, my second fraction by x minus 1 over x minus 1, because this is the piece that this denominator is missing out of my least common denominator, and x minus 1 is the piece that this denominator is missing. So you get x plus 2 minus x minus 1 on the numerator, and then all 3 pieces in the denominator. And then this numerator simplifies to 3. Remember, I kept this in parentheses because we have to make sure we distribute our negative sign. So this would be an x minus x, which is 0. And then 2 minus negative 1 minus negative turns into a plus.